This is the Builders Business Success Podcast for builders who want to attract more quality clients who aren't price-focused, eliminate cash flow pressure, and get paid for every quote. Here's your host, Mick Hawes.
Hey folks, another episode of Builders Business Success Podcast. We're currently on holidays away from the lives, but we wanted to make sure you're still getting some content to sort of get the thought processes moving and focusing on what you can do to improve and have a much better business in the new year. Now, there are certain things that are quite common to cause business failure, not just for builders, but for most small businesses. And in this episode, we're going to talk about the number one reason for business failure. Hope you enjoy it. Hope you avoid it. Hope you get you thinking, and we'll talk to you again soon. Enjoy the episode. The topic of discussion today is the number one reason why business owners of building businesses struggle and often fail. And I guess we should start by talking about why did you bother in the first place? Like, why aren't you working for somebody else? And the reasons generally are money, time, and choice. And what that means is that most people start their own business because they believe they're going to make more money than working for somebody else. They believe that they are going to be able to have far more free time because they're calling the shots, they're their own boss. And the third thing is choice. I will be able to choose who I can work with and the sort of things I focus on and the direction that I want to go in and all of those sorts of things. So they're generally the three things that people who decide to take on any sort of small business, really, not just a building business, are motivated by. So it's money, time, and meaning, we might say. Now, in most cases, when I speak to builders, in any case, and I speak to a ton of builders every week, in most cases, many builders, the owners of building businesses, are earning less than the people that they employ. And if we unpack that, so you might think, well, you know, I pay myself X and I only pay my guys Y, which means that I'm getting more. Potentially, but there is a thing that we like to use in Builders Business Blackbelt to measure your progress and your success with your business, and it's called the effective hourly rate. And basically what that is you calculate all of the cash that your business gives you. So that's any sort of profit as well as your wage and any sort of benefits you might get, you know, a car that's paid for by the business, and you calculate how much money the business is putting in your pocket every 90 days or 365 days, but a period of time. Then you calculate, give it your best guess as to how many hours you work, but you've got to count everything. When you're in the office late at night doing invoicing and quoting and planning and talking to customers on the weekend and getting up early and traveling and all of this sort of stuff, calculate all of the hours that you put into your building business and then divide the cash into the hours, or the other way around. This is probably the best way of doing it. But basically, by doing that calculation, you find out what your effective hourly rate is, how much you're being paid per hour for every hour that you're putting in. And when you do that, you will be very, very surprised. And I'll guarantee you that for the most of you, you will be earning significantly less than the hourly rate that you're paying your team members. The second thing we talked about was time. The case for most builders is that they have very little time for themselves, for their own pursuits, for family time, for holidays. I can't count how many builders I've spoken to that said, I haven't had a holiday for 2 years, 3 years, you know, of any sort of length to speak of. They may have had a long weekend here or there, but they haven't had the 2-3 weeks off at school holidays and a month off at Christmas and things like that, which is the whole idea. They haven't had the time to work on the business, work on business. They haven't had the time to work on the business because they're always working in the business. And then, of course, the choice. And again, the feedback that I get is that you've got to make hay while the sun shines. Sometimes we have to do jobs we don't want to do. You've got to take them on when you don't want to take them on. You've got customers you don't particularly like, but we have to do that. Have to means that you don't have a choice. So what I'm finding is with the money, the time and the choice, which are the three reasons that people start their own businesses, very few, if any of those three are ever experienced in the way that motivated you to take your own business on in the first place. So enter Michael Gerber and the EMyth, or now it's called the EMyth Revisited, and I think there's spin-off books also for different types of businesses. But I think just reading the standard EMyth Revisited is a great place to start. And the E in EMyth stands for the entrepreneurial myth. That's really what the title of the book is. And Michael Gerber explains that the reason he wrote the book is because there seems to be this mythical belief out there that all small businesses are started by an entrepreneurial personality. And the fact of the matter is that they are not. Very few small businesses are started by a true entrepreneurial personality. In the book, he talks about for a business to be successful, you do need three people or three personalities. If it's just you and you're running the business, you need to split yourself into three personalities. The first is the entrepreneurial personality, and that personality is all about the direction and the purpose of the business, getting very, very clear on that. And again, I'll speak to a lot of builders and ask that question, and they really don't know the direction or the purpose of their business. They kind of just fell into it. The second personality Michael Gerber talks about is the manager. And so the manager's purpose is to ensure things get done. So the entrepreneur is, that personality is talking about the direction that we need to be going in. And the manager's job is to figure out what are the actions that need to be taken to make sure we're heading in the direction that the entrepreneurial personality has identified, and making sure those actions are being taken. So making sure it's getting done. And then the third personality is the technician. The technician is the person who does the technical work. So in a building business, it is the carpentry business. It is the bit organising all of the sub-trades. If you're a hairdresser, you are doing the hair, that cutting the hair and styling and perming and all of that sort of stuff. If you're a motor mechanic, you're servicing motor cars. Motor cars. Motor mechanic servicing the motor cars. That is the technical work. And Michael Gerber, once you understand that, there's the entrepreneur, the manager, and the technician. He then goes on to talk about the number one reason for small business failure. And by the way, I probably should have mentioned this up front. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been talking about business success and helping people with business for a long, long time. And when I first started it, the statistics around on small businesses starting, how long they lasted, was around about 80% of all small businesses that started failed within a 5-year period. So that means there was only a 20% success rate. Currently, the most recent information that I've been given is it's a little worse. It's around 90% of all small businesses fail, but in the first 3 years. So it used to be 80% fail in the first 5. Now it's 90% fail in the first 3 years. And then if you are in one of those businesses that ends up going for longer than 3 years, you're still struggling. So in my view, you're still, I don't know whether I should use the word failing, but if you're not succeeding, you're probably failing or at least struggling, because success to me is having and understanding the direction that you want to go in. What's the purpose of your business? actually going in that direction and succeeding in moving the business in that direction, and having the time, the financial freedom, and the meaning, like feeling good about what you're doing rather than feeling stressed and under pressure all of the time about what you're doing. To me, that's success. Anything other than that is a work in progress. You're not succeeding if you're not hitting all of those three things, in my view, just my opinion. Now, Michael Gerber, as I mentioned, he talks about the number one reason for small business failure. And he says it is an assumption. And he says it's a fatal assumption. And the fatal assumption is this: that because you are good at doing the technical work of a business, so if you're a hairdresser, you're a great hairdresser. If you're a motor mechanic, you can make the motors sing. If you're a builder, you build fantastic product, like fantastic homes, fantastic extensions. Your workmanship is absolutely top notch. And the fatal assumption is, because you are good at doing that technical work, you assume that you will be good at building a business that does that technical work. And he says that assumption that thinking that you'll be good at building a business that does that technical work is the fatal assumption, the assumption that causes most of small business failure. And so what he suggests in his book is the best thing you could do if you were a motor mechanic would be buy a hairdressing salon. And if you're a hairdresser, the best thing you could do is buy a motor mechanic business. And the reason he says that is because it's impossible for you to do the work. Like a hairdresser probably wouldn't be able to do the mechanic work, and the mechanic definitely would be rubbish at cutting hair. So they can't do the technical work, which means that they have to figure out how to build their business and employ people, get other people to do the technical work. And to be able to do that, they need to learn how to build a business so it is profitable and it is sustainable, to be able to sustain the entrepreneur, which is the person who owns the business, and potentially a separate manager as well, but not necessarily. Like, you can be the manager and making sure things get done, and you can be the entrepreneurial personality as well. But you cannot get stuck 100% of the time doing the technical work if you think that you're going to build a sustainable business. If you get stuck on the tools doing the technical work, what you have done is bought yourself a job. Basically, you are working for wages, and you've got so much more pressure, so much more risk, probably less income, less free time, less choice than somebody who is working for a boss. And so what do we need to do? We need to change the mindset. We need to make sure that we are prioritizing the work on ourselves, so our leadership, our communication skills, and what we call the WOB, the work on the business. So work on yourself and work on the business. And those activities need to become the priority. They must become the priority. And again, sound like a bloody broken record, but speaking to most builders. And they're speaking to us because they want to know about our programs, our support, our coaching, our help. Yet many of them don't take that step because, oh mate, I'm too busy. I'm too busy to spend time, learning how to do these things. I'm, by the time I get home, I'm spent. And it's like, well, at some point, you need to decide that if I keep going the way I'm going, something is going to break. I don't know how many people have said that, even at young ages, like mid-30s, their body just won't take it anymore. They have bad backs and bad necks and all of this sort of stuff because of the physical work. So there will become a point where you just can't do it anymore. And think about this as well. There will become a point, if you haven't reached it already, where there are just no more hours that you can do. You can't grow your business because there are just no more hours that you can do. You're either working or you're sleeping. You're definitely not working on your business. That is a finite solution to your business. It's going to stop somewhere. Where if you start to work on the business and you figure out ways to automate things, to outsource things, to delegate things, to get them off your plate, so you can work on the business, work on the direction, work on nurturing and building your team so they can run your business for you, to give you more time to be working on more effective things, better approaches to your business, more resources to help your team become more efficient and more profitable, getting better clients, all of that sort of stuff. Super, super important. But it will never happen until and unless you decide to prioritize that work on the business. So I hope that makes sense. And it was a bit of a coincidence, but it just worked out perfectly that the question that was posed to me to put into this episode of the podcast was how to get off the tools, which is probably maybe what you were thinking just then when, how do I make the work on the business the priority? So that's the question I get asked all of the time. How do I get off the tool? My back's shot. I can't do it anymore. I never get time for myself or work on the business. How do I get off the tools? Now, this may challenge you. The answer may challenge you, but there is never any growth unless there is a challenge. So here we go. The very first step that you need to take is to schedule at minimum a half day, if not a whole day, in your office with no other purpose other than to work on systems, procedures, and get things off your list. So that's the first thing you need to do. And it needs to be a priority. So fundamentally, you can only work, if you work 5 days, you can only work 4.5 or 4 days on site. So that's how you need to schedule your jobs. That's how you need to price your jobs, that you are in the office and you need to be paid to be in the office. So you can build your business properly to give you more freedom, more effectiveness, to figure out ways to give your customers better experiences, more value, all of those sorts of things, because then you can charge more, you can be more profitable, you can be less stressed, all of the good stuff. But you've got to start. You've got to start with a minimum of half a day in it, and it just needs to be blocked out. No ifs, buts, or maybes. You can't say, well, I'll come and help because you're a bit short. No. You have to be completely disciplined and start with that half day. You can choose a day that has the least impact on your week, but it needs to happen. It needs to be regular. It needs to be scheduled. Second step, you need to build goals for your business improvement. You need to know what you need to be doing. Don't just get in the office and do invoicing and all of that sort of stuff, because all you've done is gotten off the physical tools on site and gotten onto the administration tools. So you're still working in the business. So there needs to be a certain amount of time in that half day or day that you're working on the business. And that's going to be covered in the personal productivity hack. But amazing how everything seems to be flowing from one thing to the other with this particular episode, but there you go. So second thing is you've got to have goals. You've got to have specific goals for your business improvement. The third thing you need to do, and this is the difference in the mindset between a business owner and an entrepreneurial personality, and that is get things off your list of things to do that reoccur. Okay, so an activity that you need to do at least once a week is put effort into finding ways to get things that reoccur. That means something that shows up on your list every single day or at least once a week, but it's every day or every week. We've got to get them off the list. And that's what an entrepreneurial personality does. They are constantly asking themselves questions on how do I get this activity off my list permanently? And there's ways to do that, and that's a whole nother conversation. A business owner just takes on more stuff. They just keep adding stuff to their list. I'll take responsibility for that. I'll take responsibility for that. And their list gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And so you must have that mindset switch and make a commitment out of figuring out how to get things off your list permanently, and that needs to be a priority. I hope that makes sense. Here is a way that you can do it with the personal productivity hack in this episode. You may have heard me talk about it before, but it is a simple process but very profound, and it's called time blocking. It's kind of in the name. You block out time. But there's some criteria for effective time blocking. And I'll guarantee you that time blocking will be one of the most powerful productivity hacks you will ever implement. So listen very carefully to the criteria, stick to the criteria, implement the criteria, and it will work for you. First thing with a time block is you've got to have a start time, and you've got to treat that start time like it is a plane taking off. Right? It is a meeting with a VIP, and it is. You are a very important person. You are a critical person to the success of your business, and this appointment is with you. Don't be late. Be there. Prepare to be there on time, if not early, for your time blocks. Absolutely critical. The second thing is you've got to have the right environment. If you're having a very important meeting with somebody, you're not sitting in an environment where things are going bing and alarms are going off on your computer and your phone and all that sort of stuff, and people are knocking on the door and saying, oh, no, you didn't need to, you said you didn't want to be disturbed, but like you've got to put yourself in an environment where there aren't things going bing and people knocking on your door and things like that. You've got to be in a quiet, focused, non-distracting environment. So number one, start time. Number two, the right environment. The third is duration. So how long is your time block? Well, it can be 5 minutes. You can get a metric shit ton of stuff done in 5 minutes if you've got the right environment and you approach it correctly. So it could be 5 and could be up to 50, but I would suggest to you that the time block should never be any longer than 50. That should be your maximum, but it could be anywhere in between. So you've got to have a finish time. That's the duration. And then the fourth thing is you've got to have a clock. You've got to have a countdown timer, hopefully a visual one, maybe even a noisy one. You can get them online, the old egg timers that go tick, 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 when you turn. It's good to have that tick, tick, tick going in the background. It creates a sense of urgency and focus, believe it or not. And it creates that sense of urgency because the time is disappearing. The hours are falling. The sand is falling through the hourglass, if any of you are old enough to remember Days of Our Lives. Good reference for the older people. So that clock is very important. So it's counting back. And the most important part of a time block is this. It is the reward. Because what we're doing when you do a time block is creating a neuro association, a link, an anchor in your nervous system to having done time blocks to pleasure. So what I suggest is just do anything at all immediately after the time block finishes. Let's say you're doing a 50-minute time block. I would suggest to you schedule 10 minutes where you just do whatever makes you happy. Don't do work unless it's really super happy work. But just make sure you're doing something that makes you really happy, that you're excited, that you're interested in, that you have a passion for, and it backs right up to that time block. So you finish the time block, don't go over. If you haven't finished what you meant to do in that 50 minutes, bad luck. When the clock goes, you've got to stop and go to reward, because what's happening is it creates that neuro association. And what that will do is cause you to feel like doing more and more time blocks. And the more time blocks you do, the more you will get done, guaranteed. So there you go. Personal productivity hack, the time block. Use them, wear them out. So what's the takeaway for this episode? I just think from everything that we've covered is business success is 100% completely in your hands. It's not in the hands of external circumstances. Yeah, I know stuff happens, like COVID happened and the market shifts and all of that sort of thing. But if you are running your business as an entrepreneur, you will be out in front of those sorts of things. I know that when COVID happened for us this time last year, we had lots of discussion with our members about what was going to happen. There was massive uncertainty, and we pivoted their focus, their message, and most of our Builders Business Blackbelt members over 2020 have had the best year in the history of their business, because they were out in front of it. Things were changing. They were looking at what was changing, and they were adapting to those changes very, very quickly. Your success is completely in your hands. Start time blocking. Start becoming an entrepreneur. Start giving priority to work on the business. That puts success right back in your hands. Hey, so I hope you enjoyed the replay of that episode. Now, some exciting things are happening right now. And one of the things is that we're basically going to... I'll just put my teeth back in. I hope you enjoyed the episode. There's some pretty exciting things going on right now. One of them is that we're basically going to get rid of our Facebook groups and a bunch of other things and create an environment for builders only. So getting rid of the Facebook groups has been motivated by all of the distractions, people that hate Facebook, getting rid of all of the notifications, and creating an environment where only builders who are motivated and focused on success and improving their business all get together in one environment. And that environment is going to be completely focused on that. You're not going to have all of those distractions. We're creating our own app. It's going to be called the Builders Toolshed. And you'll be able to download the app, have it on your phone, get all of our notifications, watch the podcast live. You're going to be able to interact with other really successful builders, learn from OPE, that's other people's experience. It puts you on the fast track to success. Now, it's not open yet, but it will be really, really soon. And there's a link in the comments section, or if you're watching this on YouTube, it'll be in the description. And if you click that link and you just register your interest to join the Builders Toolshed, you're going to get a free membership. So the first people that jump in and register their interest, we're going to be allowing them into that environment for absolutely free. It'll stay free for you. And you will avoid the cost that will be put on there a little bit later on as it starts to develop, because we want to make sure that only people get in there that are serious about the improvement, the success, and have that sort of focus on their business. So we're going to create an environment that doesn't have all of the lurkers and the free pull, and all of the free pull are people that want everything for nothing. They don't do anything, but they just sort of ask questions, waste your time, and want everything for nothing. But this environment is going to be for genuinely success-orientated builders who want to talk about what can be done to make their business different. If you want to join that environment, all you need to do is hit that link, register your interest. As soon as the door opens, you'll be allowed in for free, and we'll be pumping a lot of really high quality content and resources in there for you to help you make your business more successful. So I hope you enjoyed the episode. I hope you register your interest for the Builders Toolshed, and we'll see you next time on the Builders Business Success Podcast. I'm Mick Hawes. Bye for now.
Okay, that's the podcast. If you have a question or want to know how Mick can help with your building business, email your request to mick@buildersbusinessblackbelt.com.au. Do it now.